Yes, ma'am.
When the I don't know the character with the guitar.
Yeah. Robert's name.
Robert.
Yeah.
Okay. When you were singing, I didn't know if your character from beginning to end was real or fictional, or were you a spirit? And even like
question for me or something?
Yeah.
My character works with the
if there is an answer to that, or how would you approach it? Because I couldn't quite tell if you were real or not.
I view my character as kind of like a supernatural independent contractor. I think that he is real in a real sense, you know. His supernatural relationship, like when he walks in that prison, I view him as not having done anything. He's there because he was sent there to write a song about John Henry, and that's what he's there to do. So when he walks in, that's why he's hostile. That's why he doesn't even like the guy, because that's why he's in jail. That's why he's in prison breaking up these rocks, and he really doesn't want to be there. So for the character, I think the character really is there, and I think that's why towards the end, he's impatient. He's like, basically, he's like, get your act together. You know, you run away, so I can write the song, and we could all be happy, you know. So yeah. So at least that's my take on it.
You gonna chime in?
Yeah. Mostly, yeah, he's a real character. There's a couple things that go on in the play. The thing with Laz too, where Laz is sometimes a ghost and then sometimes a guard. Part of it is that this is not a play in which a set of realistic events occur in order to as direct consequences of each other. A lot of the things that occur simultaneously, two things happening that are mutually exclusive of each other, and they're both true. It's true that Robert is a ghost from 40 years in the future,
That's
and also
because I was confused by that. Yeah.
But also true that he's real, and that confusion is, I don't want to say that it's the entire point, but it is part of the point that there's an ambiguity about a lot of these characters and about whether or not these characters are real, because in a way whether they're real doesn't really matter.
Right.
And actually, to support that, almost by accident, I know exactly what he's talking about, because you may recall right after Willie dies on the cot, it's obviously John Henry, Peter, and Robert up on the bunk. But Peter says to John Henry, I guess it's just me and you. And it's almost like we don't even pay attention to the fact that he's there. But then 60 seconds later, he's talking to me. So I completely connect with that.
It was the one part when he had the asthma attack and died. Like everybody was participating, trying to help, and he just laid there, trying to block
I don't care about that. They write a song.
Song about John Henry. If that's a step towards John Henry being ready to go, that's all he cares.
You're not here to free Willie.
It's interesting that you mentioned that part, because we actually, when we were talking about this, there were questions about, that was one of the questions about the script that John and Randy have, and it was one of the points where we really sort of had to make a decision about how we were going to handle that ambiguity. Are we going to say, no, we're going to be ambiguous about this, or are we going to go this way or go this way with it? And so my advice was that it should remain ambiguous.
And that's ultimately what we wanted to do too when we got to it. Part of the deal with Robert is that you know, he has a goal, and that goal isn't the goal that the play ends with. I mean, he's not on John Henry's side in the end at all. He's on James's side. You know, that's who he's playing the same game as him. And so, as you see the play progress, he has integrity to what he's doing, and there's a connection there. But the ambiguity of his moral connection is there too. So leaving all of that lets the audience have to keep figuring that guy out. I mean, he's playing underscore under everybody, you know? He's supporting everybody's dialogue. And that was something we had to sort of come to terms with, and in the conversation with Chris we did.
You have the devil, moral ambiguity.
There you go. Yes, ma'am.
I really did enjoy the play, just as a comment, a side comment. And I thought the acting was superb, and that storyline was just incredible. You're just a genius to be able to come up with this in that way.
Well, thank you.
And you're welcome. And I think that part of not paying any attention to the poor dead guy is that it was a daily occurrence for where they were. They just saw death and violence and destruction all the time. Okay, so another one bites the dust. And that's why they were able to ignore him. But my question is drawn to Mr. Wardwell.
Mr. Wardwell.
And going back to the realism of that real, surreal, not real, whatever, imaginary, but just historically speaking, I found that your character was very sensitive to the plight of the inmates. Historically speaking, do you identify with that at all? I mean, that was, I wasn't there, I don't know, but just a teeny bit far-fetched. It was good, it was nice that you had a heart and compassion for them, but to have the warden during what seemed to be times when race was a very big issue, and that a white warden of a primarily black correctional facility, if you will, had compassion for his men and wanted to be sure that they were clothed and fed, when part of the punishment would be to withhold those feedings.
To withhold the feedings, you say?
You said somewhere in there the dialogue was half rations.
Right. That's when my character finally, that's when Wardwell finally exploded. Because he really didn't want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a line between the characters, you know, the way Chris wrote it. I play 3 characters, so they're all kind of in the same vein at different ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
The gravedigger,
Mm-hmm.
and Wardwell, and the guard. Okay, it's 3 parts of one personality. So Wardwell's take seems to be that he's a Quaker. You know, we were given that information, Chris. So he's a Quaker. So so we kind of toss that around.
It's interesting. There were actually a surprising number of Quakers involved in prison reform in the late 19th century. Eastern State Penitentiary, founded by Quakers. And Wardwell, as I mentioned before, an actual historical person who, to his credit, when he discovered that 1 in 10 men were dying on the Ohio-Chesapeake line, canceled the program and pulled everybody back. I mean, it is surprising, but not actually not as far-fetched as we tend to think. That there actually were people like Wardwell that were, especially from our perspective now, surprisingly compassionate.
Especially if they were Quakers.
Especially if they were Quakers, yeah. I mean,
that answers the question.
The thing to note too, though, is he does give in to the 6 cents a day. Like there's ambiguity with him too. You know, he may be looking out for them, but there's a limit to what he's doing. And then at the end of the play, certainly it resolves with this speech about what he saw. But up until then, he does certainly make choices that are to the detriment of the people and this continued success of his program.
But it wasn't an easy decision.
No, absolutely not.
No, it's a conflicted decision.
So what else is there?
What else is there? And, you know, I'm trying to put a backbone and say, you know, no matter what kind of work you're doing God's work. You know, I'm building character, and that's what counts here, even if it's breaking rocks or in my office, whatever it is. So that sort of seemed to me his bent, you know, on everything else.
Very well done.